Hi there folks, welcome back to Getting Started with Laravel 4. Now in the previous video we had a look at routing, groups and filters, and in this lesson we'll create a resource controller, which is especially handy when creating APIs or CRUD functionality like you have in a CMS. Now a resource controller is just a regular old controller, only it contains a predefined set of methods that adhere to the REST pattern. Now we'll first create one together and then we'll have a look at what that means exactly. But before we do anything else, I'll just clean up our routes file and I'll make sure it just has our regular post routes. Okay, and we can close that out again. Now fire up your terminal and run the following command: php artisan controller make user controller. Now this will create a resource controller like the one we talked about with all the predefined resource methods in it. Let's see what they are. Laravel tells us our controller has been created, so it's time to open that up. Okay, so here's our user resource controller. It also extends base controller. And here's all the methods inside of this controller. Well, the comments say it all really. We have an index method that will display a listing of the resource. In this case, it will display all the users. The create method will show a form for creating a new user. And then, when that form is posted, the user should go to the store method, which stores a newly created user. And that user will probably be stored in a database. Now the show method will display a single user. And the edit method will display a form for editing a specified user. So a user, for instance, with an ID of 1 or 2 or 3. Of course, when that form is posted, the user needs to be updated, and that's done by the update method, which updates a specified user. Again, a user with an ID of 1 or 2 or 3. And of course, we also need a way to delete a user. And that's handled by the destroy method that removes a specified resource, or in this case a user, from the storage, or in this case the database. And of course we need to pass in an ID to know which user to delete. So now that we have this controller, how do we create a route for all these methods? Well, that's actually very easy. Just do route resource, pass in user as the first argument, and user controller as the second. And that does the trick. Because this is a resource controller which has predefined methods, Laravel knows exactly what routes to set up. Now we can view those routes by opening the terminal. Now Laravel has a very handy command that shows all the routes available. Just type php artisan routes. And this command prints out all the registered routes to the screen. You see, there's our post routes. And here's all the routes defined by our resource route. And this is where you can see that these routes follow a RESTful pattern. When we visit user, we see a listing of all users. When we visit user create, we see the form to create a new user. When we post to the URI user, we are storing a newly created user. And this is what RESTful does. It takes the type of HTTP request, like GET, post, put, patch, and delete, and it acts according to that HTTP request type. Okay, so here's another GET request. When we fire up the browser and type user/1, we actually see the first user. Now, if we do either put user/1 or patch user/1, then that is where our user is updated. And if we do a request to user/1 only we use the delete HTTP request method, then that user is deleted from the database. You see, by actually using the request type as a variable, we can leave our URLs very clean indeed. Now, as always, there will be exceptions to the rules. You might have a use case that almost fits the resource pattern, but not quite. Well, in that case, you can exclude certain methods from the resource route. So maybe you're building an admin controller for a CMS, and there's no need to display a single user. Well, in that case, just add this to your route. Pass an array as a third parameter and give that array an item with a key of accept, and the value will be an array as well, and it will hold all the methods that you don't need. So in this case, just the show method. Now if we run php artisan routes again, you'll see that the show method is not longer present here. Well, on the other hand, maybe you only need to route to a handful of resource methods. In that case, you pass in an array with an item with a key of only, and here you list the resource methods that you do want to use. So maybe just edit, update and destroy. And once again, if we run PHP artisan routes in our terminal, you'll see that all we have left is edit, update and destroy. And by the way, notice that these are named routes, people. Here's the URI, here's the route name, and here's the action and method. Okay, well that's all for resource controllers. Well, if that went just a little over your head, don't worry. Later on in the course there will be a hands-on project in which we'll use a resource controller to its fullest. And you'll get to play around with it plenty, I promise. I'll see you in the next video where we'll have a look at Blade, the Laravel templating engine. See you there.